Very little material. I mean, 1,000,000 yards to me is very little material. I mean, we have some jobs that take 1,000,000 yards. I mean, it's like, okay, where it is, if they said 10 years, I'd say, okay, we'll just close the doors there in 10 years if it's not gone. I mean, but to say that in 2 years here, I mean, you'd really have to hustle to try to get this one done in 2 years.
So have you considered selling the property?
Sure, it's for sale now.
How much does it cost?
Millions of dollars.
How many?
I mean, we'd be glad to name a number if you'd give us the money.
Well, I don't personally have it, but I'm sure there are investors who would be very interested in that lot.
Well,
In fact, that's something was a position or
Yeah.
position.
yeah, it was.
Is that true?
Yeah, it was
So
under contract.
it's is it 26 acres
No,
remaining?
it is two.
But that, you sold half of that to the developer.
28 acres was sold to a developer under a note.
Of the 50, so what,
So now there's 52
We've got it
back.
back, we've got it back,
back,
so we have
yeah.
52.
so it's 52 acres.
Yeah.
Where's the school supposed to
I mean, we'll sell the gravel to you where it is. I mean, that's fine. You know, it's,
I was asking if,
No.
I don't know, Donald Trump came in and was
No,
like,
you're
I'll help
right.
you guys out,
No,
what
you-
would you
yeah,
want? What would you say?
Anything's for sale.
During the public meeting, you did say the land is worth a very substantial amount of money, and I guess a lot of people would wonder if it's worth that much money, couldn't a developer just come in and basically level it and prepare it for building?
Yeah, they'd be doing the same thing we would be doing, bringing in equipment to level it, so.
But they wouldn't
No,
get
they would be
everything out.
processing more
I agree.
and removing
they would
years.
probably touch
Take a
every
few
ton
months.
we're gonna take out of there, because they wouldn't want that big berm in the front. Anyway, I can't imagine their mind.
You can't
They-
level it and then not build on virgin ground. So,
Well, I'm just curious.
not that you can just grade it like all smooth without moving. the
I mean,
material
anything
around.
can be done and anything's possible. Somebody might want it, just like that.
But how would you communicate that price? I mean, you can't say just, an open-ended millions of dollars price tag, what would that number be?
We could listen.
We can put a number to it.
And you said it would be 2 million more, what was it that you said at the beginning? An extra $2 million because it's in a condition that's not helpful to a developer, that's what you said in the beginning? So
We
then-
were talking about grading, just grading it as opposed to going in and extracting.
Yeah, you'd probably spend an extra $2 million. If there's 1,000,000 yards of material, you can move dirt, close to $2 a yard, probably move it around.
Maybe happen in a few months.
I mean, I wouldn't quote that, but that's a pretty good number.
So basically, what the person would pay extra, this theoretical person that would buy this land, on top of the millions of dollars that he's paying for the land, he would have to pay 2 million extra to level the land so he could use it.
Yeah, I mean, that depends on how they design it. They might design a bench so they didn't have to knock it down as far.
No, I understand his estimates, I'm just trying to get a feel for the numbers.
We'll come up with a number.
If the school, if they need the school to go in because of growth, how is this going to affect that?
If they need a school to go in,
The school's adjacent to it, is that correct?
well,
There is school property.
yeah, there's school property behind it. Now, we had, through the developer, we were gonna swap some ground with the school, because they thought the school would be better up closer to this road. I mean, so there was talk about that with the developer. They were gonna swap some ground, get the school up, I guess, closer to the subdivision, so it wasn't back up the top, but, I mean, I guess would be open to anything, but having the school back where it is, it wouldn't bother us, and I don't think it would bother them.
So do you have any kids by schools? I mean, is that?
South Weaver, they built it right next to it.
That's a right.
Yeah.
So is there gravel going to be under the school? Is that still gravel under the school, under that property?
Yeah.
So there's gravel under the school. So the school could be built on gravel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, could things been built there without us ever touching it? Sure. You know, I mean, coming off Trafford, I mean, yeah, it could have been left untouched and been sold.
What work has been done in there since the permit expired for you guys? Because there has been.
There's been some gravel hauled out of there. I think you said you talked to the guys today and told them to leave that alone and just use this one.
Yeah, they've been removing stockpiles, and when the permit expired, and we weren't operating in Holly, a phone call was made to the county, can we remove the processed material out of the stockpile form? And they said, yes.
I mean, yeah, we're not mining or, you know, anything
Not
like that, but we
processing.
are loading material we have, I guess.
Question, you mentioned the possible land swapping with the school. If you finished out excavating the water pit, and then swapped land with the school, would you then potentially mine the property that the school has right now?
I'd love to. I don't, you know, I don't know. We don't, well, I'm not gonna say we wouldn't get into a deal with the school or whatever. I mean, it's feasible. I can't remember, I mean, we've looked at that property. I think the vein of gravel runs all the way up there. It would be pure speculation. When I was talking about swapping the school, that was the developer more involved in all that than we were. But, yeah, if we had the opportunity, we sure would mind it out.
But you don't know that right now.
No.
So that would be another.
Yeah, the school board owns that piece of farm.
But the northern end of the Warner pit, where it's already got some natural overgrowth and everything, do you guys have any plans to go back up in that area? Or is it just pretty much to remove those walls that were left in place?
No, like I said, the floor is within 1 to 2 feet of the elevation. We may cut, little tiny 1 foot knobs or 2 foot knobs out just a little out and grade it to the topography that we.
Yeah, there's no major excavation plan, and then, of course, if the right developer come in and said, if you do this, we might do some mass grading somewhere. If he said, this is how I want it, we'd probably grade it for him, but that would happen under any developer.
Yeah, because that far northern end, it looks like it's almost natural with the runoff and what it's done up there.
It's
So
pretty close to
we didn't know if you guys were gonna go back up and go up to the total 52 acres and touch every acre.
No, I mean, that northern end is done clear around. I mean, I'd have to look at our maps, but it's done until we come up behind Warner, and then this frontage up here with the house, the old house is.
So would it be something that we could expect for you guys to go through there, clean that area up, reseed, and pretty much get that area to where it's reclaimed as you're working on the other areas? That way it almost kind of guarantees us that you're not gonna step on dollars trying to make sense.
Now, which area?
That far northern end where.
Well, I thought you said it was already grown
Well,
over.
there's some areas, but there's still some trash up there, there's some.
I heard there's a bunch of pallets of stuff from the subdivision.
And it looks like the landscaper or someone went in there, might have dumped something on your property.
Yeah, there was a guy that was doing topsoil up in there that was kind of part of the development. But we'll look at that and we can clean it up while we're in there loading or whatever.
Anything else?
Would you buy a house in Rollins Ranch right now?
Well, yeah, I would. You know, and Dak mentioned this, I had the first lot picked out in that subdivision, and I would have gladly lived there. None of this would have bothered me a bit, except when things stalled out. I mean, they stalled out. I already sold my other home. I'm sitting here without a house, finding a place to rent, and I kept pushing Dan, when are you gonna go? When are you gonna go? I was gonna be, as you go up in there and then come back on a hillside back in this corner, I'd buy one in a heartbeat in there. This is a beautiful sight up here, and what?
Beautiful.
Well, you know what?
What's one?
You what?
It was one.
Well, it still is. I mean, and you know, if you want progress, which everybody does, I mean, the plans they had for a city center was beautiful there, and it will be a beautiful piece of property in a fairly short time. And to do any of that, we need gravel. We're in the gravel business. I love gravel. You know, and we've got a lot of pits around.
I don't think anybody's anti-business in this room, but you know, when you buy a place with a certain expectation in mind, and then, oh, by the way, you come in and say, yeah, we need to come back and get this, it's a little upsetting. I mean, that's the perspective that you need to have.
No, and I understand that, but I don't think we ever said, hey, we're done here.
But that's what the county called, all the people who called and said, hey, what is this zone for, what are you doing in here? The county told all of those people, hey, it's an old mine, it's done, they've been done for years, the permit is expired, it's gonna be a town center, whatever. So all the people who did their due diligence received that information.
Yes.
The word expired, I think, is what everybody really heard.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Expired and that it was slated to be a town center
And it was, I mean, and
All that's true.
you know, we were involved with the master plan of the whole area. You know, I think this would be great, like all the range, city center, the interchange, we was for all that, and we've never said we don't want subdivision next to us, which we don't, because of the problem, but that's progress. I mean, nobody likes mining, but without it, we wouldn't have much. I mean, not just gravel mining, but all the mining. With the food we eat and everything else, there's minerals in it we get out of the earth.
So essentially, you think it's a foregone conclusion that the permit will be granted?
You said that at the beginning of this meeting, so I guess my question to you is, if you're wrong, then what?
So we'll mine this one over here. I mean, and I don't know what we'll do with the property. I mean, we're good operators. I think we'll get it done because Morgan County wants to see that property done and somebody able to come in and develop. Can they develop without moving? Yeah, anything can be done, but it makes sense to take that out of there, get it ready, find a developer, and the quicker the better. If things are starting to move again, coming back a little bit, somebody's gonna say, hey, I wanna buy all that and develop it.
And unfortunately, most of the decision makers in the county don't live next to the mine. They live many miles away, and so, you know. It's just frustrating to not truly be in charge of your destiny when you buy a home with certain expectations and then the rules change completely out of your control.
I understand,
That's
but I
the
mean, everywhere,
frustration,
I mean, I've
I mean,
bought
that's,
and built a lot of homes, and, you know, I've been disappointed several times. I didn't know they were doing that, or whatever. I can understand where you're coming from, but like I say, of course, I'm in the business, it wouldn't bother me a bit to live there. I had a good operator gonna be there. You know, we'll be there, we'll be here, I mean, when there's problems, people call us.
one last question, does the EPA have to sign, I mean, I understand the county grants the permit, but does the EPA, are they in that decision process at all? Do they have to sign off per se?
No, they're not, I mean, they regulate, I guess, monitor the.
Do they trust the county to enforce all of the?
Well, EPA.
It's not the county,
I
it's the state.
don't know the process.
Yeah, the state watches over
State
it also.
regulates it.
Couldn't the county put conditions on the granting of the permit though?
They can if they want to enforce those
Yeah.
conditions,
And then it
yes.
would be, those would be up to the county, otherwise, in general, the conditional use permit is, your regulations are state.
Yeah.
The EPA receives the rules and requirements from the laws that Congress set and enact, and they delegated this area to the state for their enforcement and things like that, so.
Air
So the
quality and
county-
water quality is delegated to the state. The only reason federal EPA would get involved is if there was a wetlands issue,
Mm.
which we don't have here.
How long will it take to reclaim the land winter then?
Well, okay, it's almost, a lot of it is reclaimed, I mean, so it depends on who buys it and what they want to do with it, how they're gonna.
We do concurrent reclamation with our mining, so as we're mining, we grade it, you know, and seed starts to take, we seed.
A lot of it has been seeded. I mean, I think it's all grass on the backside of it, and I guess there's a mess where the topsoil guy was back there.
Something like that north end.
We'll have to go in and look at that. That was, he wasn't part of our group, he was more part of the developer that developed Rollins Ranch, and they were moving topsoil, they moved it off the site, put it there, and he was processing it there and selling it. I'd frankly have to go look at it, I can't understand what you're talking about, I know where you mean now, I'll go look at that. And while we're in there loading out, yeah, we can smooth it out and fill in what needs to be. I mean, it's, as far as getting that gravel out, I mean, really, that's about all that needs to be done for a developer to take it over, is to get that out of there.
Could you explain a little bit more, why does the, it just seemed like to me if the dirt was already there, it could be leveled to how it was before. I don't
Well, it
understand why.
can't be leveled to how it was before, I mean, all the
Well,
grass is
obviously you
done.
take, right,
We've dropped the
you lost
elevation,
it.
that all, there's a grading plan, there's a drainage plan for that.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of that gravel's in the way of that drainage plan for the water that might come in there, just the rainfall, so it drains, so it could be developed. I mean, the streets aren't cut in, but the whole thing, the slope of it is being built, and those need to be removed to do that. And that's why we bought the property. We bought it for the gravel. We're not developers, we didn't buy it thinking, hey, we can build a city here. We bought it because it's good gravel, and the bonus is we can mine the gravel and sell it and recoup part of our money from a developer.
But as far as being able to just reclaim the land without excavation, I still,
That could be done, that's not
I
what
guess
we
that's what I'm
look
asking,
to
like,
do.
why, can you help me understand? I'm like, I don't get it.
Because,
So how come it can't be reclaimed without excavation that would make it ready to sell? Why do we have to remove dirt that was already there?
because that's the business we're in, we
I
want,
know, that's your
we want the
business,
gravel and.
but a developer could come and level it
It
and not remove any dirt.
It probably could be done, it would cost him a lot of money to do
Well,
that.
if you would have bought the land before you bought it, you would have had to do the same thing. So,
Well, he'd probably develop it up on a hill, because he couldn't have moved millions of tons that were taken out of there.
well, I
Ever
mean,
come up.
we're on a hill, and that's Fallen Branch, right? And-
Well, yes, but it was cut and sloped, I mean, I'd have to find out how many yards we
I
took
mean, I
out
know
of
it
all
was
the drainage.
graded and cut out, but,
But that gravel was removed, it wasn't just moved around and leveled. Anything could be done, but yeah, we want to get the money
right,
out
it's
of the
your
gravel
business.
we invested in.
Right, it's your business, I understand.
I think that's the difference, is it costs money to move that, whether you just flatten it out or excavate it. When it's excavated, there's a certain value that's in that material, and it pays for that